Hey everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tube, or welcome back. If this is your 10th DC's Stargirl Season 2 episode review. I got a big one this week, y'all. Today I'm doing the Stargirl review, which won't be going out till Thursday morning, and then I'm doing the Chucky review that's coming out tomorrow morning when I'm recording this. So I'm doing 2 episode reviews because I kind of want a break. Well, a day break. I mean, I knew when I was playing out the schedule that doing 6 episodes back to back to back would have killed me. So I'm like, okay, I'll do 2 in one day and then have the next day to recover somewhat. So there you go. This week on Stargirl, after last week's episode, which I'll be honest with you, I was critical on. I'll admit that. I had to temper expectations going into the last now 4 episodes of the season and just knowing what are they going to do now. And I was happy with the result. I think this definitely was a step up from last week, of course. Everything mattered, and you know, the game is now more elaborate and complicated, and now it's like I'm really curious to see how they're going to wrap this up, because they set something up in this episode which I'm like, okay, this cannot be that easy. There's something else at play here, and it was. But overall, I really don't know how they did it with everything with COVID, and also just. I'm just really concerned, like, once the season's all said and done by this time next month, I'll just be curious to see what the process was of doing this season and whether or not COVID did have any effects on it, because I kind of feel like it had effects, considering the fact that every episode seems to be a much more reduced cast for better. Of course, tells a much tighter story, but let's go for the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Stargirl. So we begin basically with the flashback, with a flashback continuing from last week, where it's moments after they return back to the garage at the JSA base, and Starman's still guilt-ridden the fact that he had to kill a man to take down Eclipse. So it doesn't seem like it's the first. Actually, no, I lie. It's not the first day. It's not the night after. It kind of feels like it, but it's not, since they're a little bit more, it's a little bit more decisive that the JSA is kind of like packing up and like kind of moving out and moving on with their, lives. And this honestly really kind of like, I had a theory last week that I was going to mention if they didn't address this until when we talk about season 3 next month. But this episode definitely, like, okay, my theory is completely out the window. I mean, it still doesn't help what's going on, but it does definitely help, because one of my concerns was, what was the sudden change in Starman, since there was presumably a Starman that actually cared about Pat, and then in more recent, when we caught back to more of the recent times, he was kind of more like standoffish, more like Pat doesn't really belong here, but he kind of does, that sort of vibe, even though Pat is incredibly older than him, not by much, maybe by about a few years or so, give or take. And that was what I was curious about. And then this episode definitely paints, okay, no, nothing happened. This is still the same Starman, but he has an explanation to why he's like this sometimes with Pat. And it's not because of anything he did, it's just his own character. Since for his family life growing up, he never really had a proper, stable family life. His parents never really considered, because, when most parents, they consider their children the star of their worlds when they're born, and they like nothing else matters, it's just them. But then when it comes to more along the lines of, hey, when it comes to, damn, I forgot the name. Well, Starman's real name, I forgot what it was. Sylvester. When it comes to his parents, they never really cared about him. Bringing up a story that when he was 16 years old, when he just turned 16, when he woke up for his birthday, he found a watch at his bedside, and he assumed it was from his parents. So he wore that watch to school, and he got into a fight with a bully, and I forgot if he lost the watch or the watch got destroyed. I forgot which one it was. And afterwards, when he went to go tell his parents that, his parents said, "We never bought you a watch. This isn't ours." And then he realizes, oh, it was Pat who bought the watch. So it's like Pat, I guess Pat kind of was like, again, they're only different by like a handful of years. I think they established earlier on it was a 5-year gap, so like they can really be considered brothers instead of like Pat being a surrogate father. That's more like the relationship he has with Courtney. So I guess he was kind of like a surrogate brother to Sylvester, and it definitely defined their relationship growing up as Sylvester never got to pick his family. His mom and dad were kind of chosen for him, but with Pat, he got to choose his own brother. And even though lately, yeah, he hasn't been treating Pat like a brother or as an equal, his thing is that I guess I still have too much of my parents in me to, like, actually care. And that makes sense. And that's something you got to work on, at your own time. And him giving the speech to Pat definitely kind of, helps them out as they enter this unknown future where they literally don't know what's going to happen with each other, with the GSA, but Sylvester's only concern right now is to make sure that, hey, that we're still a family, we're still together, that no matter what happens, we're going to be fine. And again, we don't know what happens. Again, I'm hopeful that whatever remaining run this show has, we'll tell more about those stories, but we'll see how that goes. We cut back to present day where the argument between the Whitmores and the Dugans continue about the whole lie to keep what the JSA did to defeat Eclipse the first time a secret. Courtney's not happy whatsoever. She thinks this is a massive betrayal since they're supposed to be equals. They're supposed to be a team. And, the fact that he kept this major piece of information, which definitely could have not changed the plan to take out Eclipso, but definitely would have, like, put things more into perspective. We'll get more along this later in the episode, but I'll mention it now, especially with Yolanda's case. Yolanda thought that she was the first JSA member to kill someone, but in reality that was Starman. And maybe knowing that fact could have maybe helped her process that better. We don't entirely know, so to speak. That's basically a question of, like, a what if it actually happened. We just will never know. But before they are able to continue this conversation or argument, whatever you want to call it, a shadow appears, and I'm just like, oh great, what's happening now? And it's the Shade. He's finally, after 4 episodes, he's taken incorporeal form again, and he's still bleeding out, and he's basically about to die, and he tells them, like, with my dying breath, or my last moments on this pitiful planet, I will tell you the secret to defeating Eclipso, which is the diamond again. So since the diamond was destroyed, that imprisoned him, putting him back together would immediately put him back inside. Which, that doesn't really make sense, because honestly, wouldn't it make sense for, like, to bring the crystal back together when it's around Eclipso? That doesn't really, even, like, when I was watching, like, that's not how it works. There's something here. There's something wrong here. And then Shade says you can use your staff to bring it back together, but Courtney tries, but the problem is the staff is still not 100%, even after all this time, it's still not juiced up enough to, do this major task. So the only other person that they currently have JSA powers from the JSA's, past is Jenny, who is still with the Green Lantern power within her. So she's the only one who's able to do this. So they have to go find her. And Pat says, I think I know where we can start looking. So the two go on a road trip to, I forget the name of the city. It's another city. It's not Vancouver X cities. It's an actual new city that we don't really get to spend much time in. I mean, considering that we actually got a landscape for it, could be for future seasons, but we don't know what the case might be for that yet. But before we depart, mostly Blue Valley, we catch up on Beth, who is now wearing the goggles full time, because that's literally the only way to detect what something's real and what something's not, which is actually smart. It does give Beth some real purpose going into, like, this final stretch of episodes, considering the fact besides Courtney, she is the only other JSA member left. So she's really on deck here. But before she's able to, like, assist with the main plot with the episode, she has a little talk with her parents. And what I mean by little talk is they criticize her about the goggles, and they're supposedly about to start talking about their future as a family and, with the divorce. That's kind of interrupted since Beth gets paged by Courtney to come over to her house for an emergency. And honestly, Beth gives, like, a very backslap at her parents. That back in season 1, towards the start of it, I remember Beth's parents basically told her, like, we appreciate you caring about us and us being a family, but you're 15, you're allowed to have friends your own age, and you'll have a life outside of us. And, they basically tell them, like, get away from us, like, have your own life. And now she's had her own life. She was part of a team, and now she's still part of a team, but she's, she has other people that need her, that care about her. And I guess my parents are starting to realize, maybe we shouldn't have pushed her away after all. But whatever, we don't really get to touch up on that later on. So Courtney needs Beth to stay behind and kind of be the remaining families kind of like realize that they're able to like she's gonna be able to be able the only one to figure out what's real or not with the goggles. So she's staying by while Pat and Courtney head up to the city to go find her. And the ride up there was very, very awkward. They're not 100% with each other. They're not, you know, they're not on speaking terms mostly. And Pat's trying to reach out. He's trying to reconnect, but Courtney's just like, no, like not now. Don't even try. Which, again, I totally understand Courtney's point. And she's angry. She's pissed. Let her be. You know, she'll have her moment to realize everything. But right now, she's kind of just wound out by the whole ordeal. Eventually, Pat does give her like, you know, some reason to why they're at least going to the city, that there was mysterious green fires in the city in recent weeks. So green fire, doesn't that ring a bell? Well, not the fire part, but like green. So you see, there you go. But there's only one place coincidentally in the city that might be might make sense to where Jenny might go, which is the Hall of Justice, or the Justice Society Hall. I forgot the name of the building. Honestly, I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago or last week. Really, like, what are we gonna go back to that? You know, thing. Was that just an example of like, this is DC Universe money? Like, we are saying, fuck it, no budget. Let's give every episode what it needs. It still feels like a TV show, but it still has its own, like, you know, identity. And then we don't even go there. We see reuse purpose shots of it, which I'm like, oh cool, we're gonna get back to go there, but like, no, definitely not. Which actually doesn't make sense considering the fact that's a set. Mostly shows don't deconstruct sets until after they've been notified you're not doing another season. So it doesn't make. I mean, I understand why most of the JSA like hall scenes takes place in the Stars and Stripes garage. I understand that. It just kind of is weird that we don't get like a little bit of like a scene where like, honestly, maybe like, okay, I could be feeling too far ahead of this. I would love it if there was a scene in season 3 or later on where like we eventually do establish the JSA's new base is in the old hall, and you know, we get scenes with the new cast with this new generation there, Jenny included, whoever else they want to recruit. That would be a cool moment to see for me personally, to get them back in that set. But it's still kind of weird, like we don't get to see that set. I don't think that was like an actual, you know, physical location they used. I think that was an actual set, because I don't think any of the physical locations would be okay with. Let's put random DC artifacts in our area with portraits of random actors portraying these famous superheroes. I don't think that was a real location, so that was my only really my real big question going forward. But they look around, and for Courtney, this is again another, like, you know, big step up, you know, getting to be close to what Starman and, you know, was like back in the day when he was still an active hero and alive. Well, alive, you know what I'm saying. And Pat, you know, this is the first time he's been back in a decade. Specific in this grind, like, I'm actually curious, like, he didn't drop by when they came last season. I'm actually surprised. I mean, it could just be like they were in a hurry, so they didn't really have time to go visit. But whatever the case might be. So, despite that, they need to move forward. They need to go to the hall off screen. So I'm like, okay. I mean, I get it. I'm pretty sure you didn't want to like open up a set just for one scene. I'm like, it makes sense in this case, but whatever the case might be. But Courtney does find evidence that Jenny has been sleeping out of there. You know, seeing, you know, sleeping bags, blankets, food around a table, and like, yeah, she's been sleeping here. So now they know she's been here recently. So now they're gonna go find her. Back in Blue Valley, Bab's doing her usual research on things about Eclipso, about the Shade, all that sort. We had a little bit of a backstory about the Shade. Apparently, when the Shade in the 1800s, it was the 1800s, he was a con man, and during attempted sale, he sells over a fake black diamond to the Men of Tears, which is, I'm not sure if that's a real society or one from the comics. I really don't know, but apparently they used the Shade, well, when he was a human, as a sacrifice. But I guess for, you know, leaps and logics, he gained the powers of the Shadowlands and became the Shade after all. So that's his origin story summed up for a second there. So she's looking at Barbara's trying to talk to him, but you know, he's like really out of it, and like, you know, fighting for his life. Still acting sort of delirious about, you know, thinking Barbara is his sister, and you know that he's talking to her and thinking he's her sister. Mike decides to leave the house behind and decides to head off to the shop to work on stripes. Which I'm just curious, when did Pat show him how to run a mechanical machine? Like when? I highly doubt he taught him off screen. I really highly doubt it. But he's working on it. It seems like he's making some progress with it, not a lot, but some progress. I guess he does have a little bit of his dad in him. But before he's able to continue, he hears on the radio that there's a cloudless thunderstorm near Blue Valley. And Mike immediately remembers Thunderbolt. So he bikes all the way there, sees the residue of Thunderbolt's actions, and then pulls up in a house that's a complete gingerbread house. Which I'm like, damn, Christmas came early this year. Continuing onwards. So that was basically it for that side of things. Well, for now. Back over in the other city. They deduce that for Jenny's note that she came to this orphanage, presumably to find her brother that she's been looking for since she left at episode 2. And again, the uniforms of this place, I'm like, this screams secret organization. This screams bad guys around. I don't understand. Pat, who has been in business for like over 2 decades, doesn't even understand. These are all super villains. What are you doing? But, you know, they find Jenny in her room, sans her brother. Turns out her brother had already, you know, supposedly left the area, so she just came back to pick up his stuff. And it doesn't really, whatever he left behind didn't really offer her any clues on where he would have gone next. Pat and Courtney come in, trying to console her and also trying to get an update of what she's been up to and why she did those fires. And turns out that was all part of her hunt to find her brother, that she broke into a federal building to get the unsealed documents for her brother, and then I guess the abandoned orphanage was just her presumably finding a connected location, but it was just ended up being abandoned, so that was the dead end, so she ended up burning that down. And she says, like, any of the lessons that Pat taught her when she was down in Blue Valley basically already went away, like, a while ago, and she's feeling anxious, she's feeling sad that, like, you know, she has all these abilities, but she's not able to control them properly, and Pat manages to calm her down, and, you know, Courtney as well, so she's able to keep her powers in check, and she agrees to go along to go reform the Diamond. On their way out, again, like I said, this is a sinister organization. Like, fuck, this is like literally the most obvious evil villains I've seen, where the head nurse literally sees them leaving, calls a doctor with a very evil name, and tells him, "Oh, do you know that the guy we have in custody has a sister? That'd be interesting when you. They're not gonna come back here, but." You know, just to let you know that, you might want to have that for your records. So they head back to the JSA garage as they're getting ready to set up the diamond reforging. And Jenny's getting caught up with recent events with Eclipso, and she's obviously surprised, like, wow, you guys are going up against basically a space demon. Like, you know, what else has the JSA originally fought? And, you know, obviously they could have just easily name dropped, like, oh, here's a season 3 villain you can use. Like, no, we don't get that. It's just, you know, just Joker too. So that was fun. I love lukewarm tea. It's like still hot, but it's not burning your mouth. I love it. Continuing onwards. So this is, I think this was the part. Yeah. So. Jenny starts using her ring. It's working. The power's enough to kind of start putting the diamond back together. But at the same time, back in Blue Valley, coincidentally, Beth hits up some files about the shade and the diamond. It turns out the diamond doesn't really do anything if you reforge it to taking down Eclipso, but it just reconnects the physical world of theirs to the shadow realm, which is what the shade wanted. So once the diamond's reformed, the Shade gets his full powers back. He recovers and it easily escapes. He had to trick them, otherwise he was going to die. So, toodles to the Shade, I guess. You know, he wins the day. Back at the JSA garage. Oh, the last piece of information he leaves them is that if you break the diamond and you reforge it, you just literally summon Eclipse straight to you, and he shows up, and oh my god, he just instantly wrecks job. You know, Pat one punch. You know, he feels some of Jenny's blasts. He does feel like Green Lantern and Stargirl are literally the only real 2 threats to him at this moment. But since Jenny's very unexperienced, you know, he easily wipes her away. The stab barely has any power, or I guess refuses to fight Eclipso again, so it does nothing as well. And as punishment, Eclipso decides to send Courtney to the Shadow Realm, the Shadowlands, and honestly, I don't know, like, I like this scene, but I'm like, there could have been like a little bit, like the music was fine, but I could have affected a little bit more of the camera shot. Like I wanted to see like I wanted to see like an upward view of Courtney going to the Shadow Realm, and just having her and Pat's hand like slowly like, you know, disconnect for a moment, and just Pat realizing what he's done, which he does. I will give him credit. Like, you know, Pat does actually feel the emotional way that Courtney's gone. She's just been sent away to a place where she may never return, and he has nothing. He can do nothing about it, and he's just like, how the hell am I going to explain this to Bar when I get home? And honestly, I have such a set idea what I wish I would what they would do for the last 3 episodes. I'm pretty sure they're not going to do it, but like this would be a cool moment for me at least. I'll tease it at the end of this review, but that ends this week's episode of DC's Stargirl. So again, with tempered expectations, this episode did bounce back. It definitely continued the purpose of, you know, telling the story even much more isolated, with a fractured JSA now. Also, I forgot to mention, there was a scene at the jailhouse where Rick is still chilling out, waiting for his next trial date, and suddenly apples get thrown into his cell, meaning that Grundy knows where he is, and it's his turn to like feed Rick while he's, you know, stuck in there, which is actually pretty sweet that they're actually, you know, even regardless of what happened, they're still, you know, they're still friends. So that was cute. This definitely feels like the last episode of terms of like, we're just giving a little bit more backstory before we go straight into like the finale. So that's what it feels like. Going to a new city, learning more about Jenny, about what she's been up to. Again, teasing this other organization, which I'm pretty sure will now be a forefront in season 3. My guess is that Jenny will join the main cast next season, and you know, this will be one of like the season's, you know, biggest mysteries going forward, because I don't think they have any more JSA villains to find. You know, the Gambler is there, and they've just promoted Sports and Sportsmaster and Tiger as the series regular, so we'll see how that goes, to be honest with you. Beth, again, still proving that she's going to be a very valuable asset in the fight. How is Shade going to factor into this? I really don't know, because it seems like Shade does want to take it on Calypso, but at the same time, he's kind of just a heartless prick. So I'm like, I really don't know what direction they're going to paint him when we eventually do come back next week. So I'll be actually curious to see. But for me, again, this was definitely the episode to come back from. We're back up top. They're back to telling their story and like doing everything appropriately. And yeah, so I'm gonna give this episode 2 thumbs up. I really enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this week's episode of Stargirl? And as for my prediction, it would be awesome if we would have like a whole episode in the Shadowlands, and then, you know, just Courtney, presumably Cindy, and then also hopefully Dr. Midrider, and then episode 12 we get none of them. It's everyone else just kind of like realizing, yeah, Courtney's gone, we got to step up now. We're the only ones who could take down Eclipso, and then have episode 13 have everyone be together and like somehow find a way. I don't know how they're gonna do it, and I really hope that it's not your. We'll see how it goes. I'll talk more about this in the next couple of weeks. But I think that's gonna do it for me, everyone, tonight. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in the 2nd season of DC's Stargirl. We're currently doing also on What's the Two our Doom Patrol season 3 episode reviews each and every Friday mornings after a brand new episode on Thursdays on HBO Max. We are also doing Nancy Drew season 3 episode reviews each and every Saturday mornings after brand new episode on Friday nights on the CW, or free the next day on the CW app. We're also doing Rookie season 4 episode reviews each and every Monday mornings after brand new episode on Sunday nights on ABC, and also we are also doing Heels reviews every Tuesday morning, but right now we're wrapping it up. This coming week will be the Heel season 1 review. The week after that, the Heel season 2 prediction, and I will wrap up our run for Heels for now. Yeah. And then also, yesterday we did our Chucky First Impressions, which is basically the pilot episode for a potential new review series, despite I'm doing currently 5 right now. I would love to do 6. I don't know how Chucky's going to end up in the end because I haven't watched it yet, but even though this is coming out there later, I'm hopeful it's great. I'm hopeful it's a welcome addition to this ever-growing universe. But We'll see, but please share the support there if you want to see more of Chucky. But again, if you don't care about Stargirl, you're in luck. We'll be back next week with another episode review. Just remember, as always, we're in our final run, meaning that next 3 weeks, episode reviews every Wednesday morning. Yeah, so this was the only time we had to pump it to Thursday because of Chucky. And then afterwards, after its finale episode in November, we'll go into a season 2 review, and then after the season 3 predictions video to bring it all home. So there you go, that's your plan. But again, if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX. Please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionXvideos. Like, favorite, share this review if you want to, but it helps us get us out there to other Stargirls in the world who has yet to discover us. Helps us beat up that YouTube algorithm that hates me ever so much in life, and as well as sharing us for free here on the interwebs. And also, please ring that bell for notification when our next episode review is live, which is usually each and every Wednesday mornings normally. And also, please follow us on social media, including our Twitter and Instagram pages. But until then, for all you Stargirls out there, I'll see you all next week for the next episode review. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.